Welcome to the Explainer. We all kind of take for granted that our email inbox is a safe space. But under the surface, there's this constant battle going on against fraud and scammers. So today, we're going to crack open the hidden security system that's working 24/7 to protect your inbox and your identity.
And really, it all boils down to this one simple question we have to ask ourselves dozens of times a day. You get an email from your bank, from your boss, from a brand you like. But how do you really know it's them? Because that's the scary part. The way email was first built, it's actually super easy for attackers to fake the from address. This is called email spoofing, and it lets them pretend to be someone you trust so they can trick you into clicking a bad link or giving up your password. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Your inbox has some backup. There are 3 invisible guardians working behind the scenes to stop these imposters. They are the unsung heroes of email security: SPF, Dkim, and Dmarc. So here's the game plan for today. We'll talk about that imposter problem, then we'll meet our 3 heroes one by one. SPF, who's like the bouncer, Dkim, the notary with the official seal, and Dmarc, the manager who calls the shots. And then we'll see how they all work together as a team. All right, let's get into it. First up is our frontline security, SPF. The easiest way to think about this one is as the bouncer at the front door of a club. SPF stands for Sender Policy Framework, and what it does is actually really straightforward. The owner of a domain publishes a public list of all the servers that are officially allowed to send email for them. It's literally the bouncer's guest list. If your server isn't on the list, you're not getting in. So the process is just a quick 4-step check. An email hits your server. The server looks at the sender's domain. Then it hops online and finds that domain's public SPF record, the guest list. And finally, it asks, is the computer that sent this email on the approved list? If yes, pass. If no, fail. And that whole guest list, it just looks like this one little line of text. The V equals SPF part just says, hey, I'm an SPF record. Then you can list specific IP addresses or use include for third-party services you trust, like a newsletter platform. But the really important part is at the end, that -all. That's the bouncer's final command. It says, if you're not on my list, reject. Okay, so SPF is our bouncer, checking who's at the door. But what if someone on the guest list is carrying a forged message? Well, that's where our second guardian, Dkim, comes in. This is the notary seal. Dkim stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail. You could think of it like one of those wax seals on an old-fashioned letter. It's a digital signature that proves 2 really important things. 1, the email really did come from the domain it says it did, and 2, nobody messed with the message while it was on its way to you. So how does it do that? Well, it's a pretty clever system. The sender uses a secret, private key to create a unique signature on the email. Then they publish a matching public key for anyone to see. When your inbox gets the email, it grabs that public key and checks the signature. If it all lines up, bingo, the email is authentic and untouched. So let's just put those 2 together, right? SPF, our bouncer, checks who is sending the email. Dkim, our notary, checks the message itself to make sure the seal hasn't been broken. 2 different jobs, but they work perfectly as a team. So we've got the bouncer and the notary. Great. But what happens if one of them says, hey, something's not right here? Who makes the final decision? Well, for that, you need the manager to step in. And that manager is Dmarc. Dmarc is basically the rulebook. It looks at the results from our bouncer, SPF, and our notary, Dkim, and it tells the receiving server exactly what to do with any email that fails their checks. It takes away all the guesswork. And this is what makes Dmarc so powerful. The domain owner gets to set the policy. That's the P equals part. You can start with P equals none, which is basically just a monitoring mode. Then you can move to P equals quarantine, which tells servers if it looks fishy, send it to spam. Or for the tightest security, you can set P equals reject, which just says block this email completely, don't even let it in the door. But Dmarc does one more super important thing. It also provides intelligence. It sends reports back to the domain owner showing them exactly who is trying to send email on their behalf and whether those messages are passing or failing. This is absolutely critical for spotting abuse and protecting their brand. Okay, so let's bring it all together. Let's see how our team, the bouncer, the notary, and the manager, works in practice. And I'll even show you where you can see the proof for yourself right in your own inbox. So why is this whole thing such a big deal?
Well, if you have a business or a website, this setup is non-negotiable. It prevents attackers from impersonating you, which protects your customers, it protects your brand's reputation, and as a huge bonus, it helps make sure your real emails actually get delivered instead of ending up in the spam folder.
And here's the cool part. You can actually see this system in action. In most email clients, there's an option like Show Original or View Source. This lets you peek under the hood at the email's header. It might look like a bunch of code at first, but the results of the security checks are right there. And this is what you're looking for. If you dig through that header, you'll find a line that looks something like this. See those words? Pass, pass, pass. That's the trifecta. That's SPF, Dkim, and Dmarc all giving the thumbs up. It's the digital seal of approval, confirming that the email is legitimate and can be trusted.
So let's run through it one last time to make it stick. SPF checks the sender. DKIM verifies the message. And Dmarc enforces the rules. The bouncer, the notary, and the manager, all working in perfect sync. And that really leaves us with one final thought. Now that you know how these three guardians work together to protect every inbox, it's worth asking, if you own a domain, are your guardians on duty? Is your bouncer, notary, and manager on the job? Because in today's world, they absolutely should be.